He's a writer, journalist, and human rights activist based at the Christian Solidarity Worldwide, which is based in London. During the past 15 years, his focus has been on Burma, especially the human rights situation that is developing in the country right now. With me in the studio is author Benedict Rogers. He's the author of a new book called Burma, A Nation at the Crossroads. A warm welcome to you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you with us.
Very good to be with you.
Yes, I have a quick scan of your book and it's very interesting in many ways. First, you have been to the country 1,000 times. Okay, you've been to the 40 times, which seems a whole lot for me. So can you tell me first, simple questions begin with, how did you come to be interested in the situation in Burma in the first place that ultimately drew you to the country?
Well, I started to get involved in human rights work generally when I was a university student. And that took me, I spent a lot of time in Asia, I spent time in China, I lived in Hong Kong, and I got involved in East Timor. Okay. And while I was in East Timor, I started to hear more about the situation in Burma. And I got involved in Burma around about 1997, but I made my first visit to the Thailand-Burma border in 2000 to the Karen refugees.
That's 12 years ago.
That's right.
Right.
It was really through that visit that I got very actively involved. I had been involved a little bit before then, but what drew me to get more deeply involved was a combination of the extent of the suffering of the people of Burma, particularly the Karen, who were the first people that I met, but later the other peoples. The fact that it was largely unknown by the rest of the world and very underreported.
Yes.
And also just that it's such a beautiful country and beautiful, dignified people, but a country that has suffered so much for so long.
Right. You describe yourself as a journalist, a writer, and a human rights activist, advocate, as you say. And this book, after I started reading through it, I mean, the impression was that you seem to come up with a lot of facts and figures about human rights situation, about torture, about persecution of minorities in the east of Burma. So you wrote this book from which perspective, as a journalist or as a human rights advocate?
I would say primarily as a human rights advocate, and that's my primary day-to-day work now. I would no longer call myself really a journalist. I used to be a journalist, but now I'm more of an activist. But of course, I took a journalistic approach to it by interviewing a wide range of people and by including a lot of human stories and writing from that approach as well. So a combination of a human rights perspective with perhaps a journalistic style.
Do you think what does it take to understand the complexity of the developments that are happening in Burma? You've been there 40 times and you befriended a number of minority groups in the country, including members of the government, the opposition people. What does it take to grasp the whole picture, understand the complexity of the situation? What does it take?
Well, one of the reasons that I wrote this book was that I felt that a lot of books that are available on Burma tend to approach Burma through one dimension, either the dimension of the democracy movement, Aung San Suu Kyi, or the perspective of the ethnic minorities, one particular ethnic minority perhaps. And there's value in that, and I think those kind of works are definitely valuable. But I felt there was a shortage of books that look at the situation comprehensively, the struggle for democracy, the plight of the ethnic nationalities, with some historical context and a look to the future as well. So that's what I tried to do. In terms of what it takes, I think my experience of traveling to all of the different borders of the country many times, as well as traveling inside the country many times, gives me a fairly comprehensive perspective. I don't claim to know everything by any means. I'm
Yeah.
always learning about Burma,
Yeah.
but I think I have a broad perspective.
Right.
Whereas people who are, for example, based in Rangoon or only travel to Rangoon, they only see things from a Rangoon perspective.
Yeah.
People who only travel to the ethnic areas see
Okay.
things only from an ethnic area. I think to see things comprehensively, you have to travel widely and meet as wide a range of people as possible.
When you were touring the country, you're posing yourself as a tourist, right?
In the past, yes.
When the authority discovered you in the hotel, they're ransacking your luggage and discovering novels and some books and looking like you were more like a traveler on a holiday or something like that. That's how you present yourself to...
In the past,
Yeah.
because it was impossible to go in if I said I'm a human rights activist, I did travel as a tourist, and I always made sure that I did tourist things.
Yeah.
I visited tourist sites,
Right,
and
right.
and I did, I was legitimately a tourist. But I think now it's possible to be a little bit more upfront and open and to engage more directly.
Okay. All right, okay. Okay, in this book, you talk about, I would say you cover a lot of ground, right? From the human rights situation to prisoners, opinion leaders that are jailed in prison, and the democratic process in the country that you seem to be very optimistic about. You actually use the word cautious optimism.
Yeah.
Can you define that?
Yes, I think that in terms of international opinion and even opinion among Burmese, there's a range of views. There are some who, in my view, are see things as rosy and as almost already finished and everything is okay. And then there are others who are very cynical and who think that this process is not genuine and will not go anywhere. I think cautious optimism is a combination of recognizing the changes that are taking place and taking the attitude that when the government does the wrong thing, we should criticize them and we should speak out and we should put pressure on them. But when they do the right thing, we should welcome what they're doing and encourage them.
Right.
But so the optimist part is seeing what they have already done and welcoming it and seeing the potential. The cautious part is recognizing that there is still a very long way to go.
Okay.
There are still political prisoners in jail.
Yeah.
There's still a very active conflict, particularly in Kachin state. And there are many human rights concerns and other concerns as well. And there is a need for real constitutional and institutional change that has not yet taken place.
Right.
I would say at the moment there's a change of atmosphere, but not yet a change of system.
Right.
So cautious optimism is recognizing the positives, but also recognizing that there's still a long way to go, and also that the process is still fragile, and we're by no means there yet.